If you're building a VR game in Unity, at some point you're going to need to figure out how to load scenes cleanly. Initialize your managers, load your environment, get the player into experience without anything breaking. And if you just start throwing things into your scenes without a plan, well, things get messy pretty fast. In this video, I'm going to show you a pattern called the single entry point that gives you a clean, structured way to handle all of that. One scene bootstraps your game, loads everything in the right order, and then fades the player in smoothly. So, let's build it. So what is single entry point? Well, the concept is pretty Shrimple. Instead of having scenes where everything is already there, we are going to be making prefabs of everything and then having a single entry point and script spawn everything in. That way we have full control over what's going on in our scenes, where they're initializing, and also making sure that if any errors occur, we know where it occurred and why. And this pattern comes from a video by Practic API. I'll make sure to link them in the description. It's a very good channel that goes in depth on general Unity projects and how to implement very good patterns when building out your games. And what we're doing today is taking the same concept and applying it to VR. And the way we are going to make this all fit together is first we're going to have a Bootstrap scene, which is going to have a Bootstrap manager, and it's going to be responsible for spawning our important systems, things like the game manager or the scene load manager. And from there, the Bootstrap manager will then load the game scene, and we will load into the game scene, and we will spawn all the objects we need in our game scene. Pretty Shrimple. Now, before we get all the loading scene logic going, let's talk about making the transition smoother. So in VR, it's really disorienting if you teleport a player or if you load a new scene to a player and you don't add some kind of fade in canvas or fade in and fade out. So then I've already built one here. You can see it's a big black square that we are just putting right in front of the player. And I'm not going to construct it from scratch. I'm going to run through it. And let me know in the comments if just running through it is enough for you, or if you want me to build things like this from scratch just so you can fully understand it. But I think you can pick it up. So we have the main camera here on the XR rig. I've attached a canvas onto it. And the canvas, important things I want to point out to you, that is set to world space. And I've also attached a canvas group to it. And the reason I have the canvas group is because we're going to be adjusting this alpha so we can fade in and out in a script. Now, since this is parented to the main camera, you can see here I have the positions as 0, 0, and 0.5. And so this image in canvas, it's just going to be a little in front of the camera. So if I had it at 0, 0, you can see here the player, let me expand this out. You can see here the player can see everything, but if I put it at 0.5, they're now blind. And I also have an image here that I've attached to it. So, you just go boom, 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 add an image. And you can see I set the width and height to 5. I set the color to black. And just for extra reassurance, I added a sorting group and put the order in layer to very high to make sure it renders above everything else. So that is our fade canvas. Nothing too crazy. And I also have this script here called fade canvas that is going to do all the magic. So let's run through the script really quick. We have two variables here. We have the default duration, so how long the fade in and fade out will take, and start visible. So do we want this to show up at the beginning or not? And then we have two other variables here. We have the canvas group, so we can change the alpha to 1 or 0, and then a coroutine that we'll use to store whatever active coroutine is currently running, just so we can keep track of things. So on awake, we're going to grab these components, and then we're going to set it to whatever visibility we want. Then we have two public methods, fade in and fade out. And yeah, I do have these helper functions in here as well, so we can see it in the editor to easily test when it's fading in and fading out to make sure it's working. I'll show you that in a second. But the fade in and fade out are very Shrimple. We have the duration that gets passed in, and then we check if there is currently a coroutine that's running. If there is, we're going to stop it, and then we are going to start the new coroutine with whatever duration we passed in and whatever alpha we want. And the last thing is the fade out coroutine. So it has a target alpha and a duration. We store the start alpha from the canvas group, and then we also set the time to 0. And I do something a little extra here. So if the target alpha is 1, so we are fading in, so the screen will be black in the end, what I'm going to do is I am going to turn block raycast on, because I don't want, if the player has rays shooting out of their controllers, I don't want it to go past the screen. I want the screen to block it because I don't want them to be able to interact with anything they're not supposed to see or interact with yet. Then here, while time is less than duration, we just use lerp to slowly fade the canvas to the alpha that we want. And once that has completed, we do one more check. So this is if it has faded out, so it is now clear. We are going to set the canvas group block raycast to false. And then at the very end, we set the canvas group alpha to the target alpha just to make sure it's not like rounded out and we don't have like a small tint. And then the current coroutine is going to be set to null. And that's it. Pretty shrimple. And both the fade out and fade in call the same fade coroutine. So if I press play, and if I'm in the editor, I can actually right click this component, and you can see down here, these are my helper functions. So I could test the fade out, and you see it fades out, and then I can test the fade in. So it's working. All right, so now we can fade in and out, and we can start working on loading into this scene. And the first thing we're going to start with is the Bootstrap scene. So this is just a separate scene here that I have, and in it I have a game object that I'm going to call Bootstrap Manager. And then I have the XR origin that has a fade canvas on it, and the XR Interaction Manager because, well, we kind of need that. Now, technically, with the Bootstrap scene, it shouldn't have anything in it except the Bootstrap Manager. But I do have an XR origin in it. And why? Well, because I don't like starting XR games without an XR origin in it. It doesn't make me feel good. I don't want to risk instantiating it, even if I'm doing that at the very beginning in the Bootstrap Manager, because anytime you have a disconnect with your user and what they're seeing, it's just going to result in a bad experience. So we have to break convention a little bit here. But, you know, just because you have a game design pattern and it has a standard way of doing things doesn't mean you can't alter it for your necessary use case. So all we're going to do is have the XR origin here and then the Bootstrap Manager, which is going to be responsible for booting up everything that's important. Things like the game manager or things like the scene load manager or literally any manager that you're going to have throughout your entire game. But I'm doing a light version of this, so right now we're just going to keep it to the game manager and the scene load manager. And let's jump into the Bootstrap Manager and see what we're cooking with. And this script's going to just take a second. You can see here, we just have references to our game manager and scene loader, and then whatever scene we want to load first. Awake, we initialize the managers. We check if it's null or if the prefab is also null, and if it's not, we instantiate it, and we do the same for the scene loader. And then if any of those comes out and they're still null, well, that's what the single entry point is here for, is the fact that if things go wrong, we know where it goes wrong. So it'll display a message. And then in start, we will just go into scene loader and we'll load whatever our first scene is. Shrimple. Now, just to be a bit thorough, we are instantiating a game manager and a scene load manager. So let's look at the game manager really quick, but I'm not going to talk about it too much because, well, it's just like an in general game manager. All it does is it manages different states that the game can be in, things like the main menu, loading, playing, pause. And then I am also using the singleton pattern, so there is an instance of it that is static. So any other game objects can grab a reference to it really quickly and maybe subscribe to any of these events happening that they might be interested in. But again, this is just a placeholder, not very important in terms of what I am trying to teach in this tutorial. Now, one of the scripts that is a little more important is going to be the scene loader. So let's hop into the scene loader and I'll explain what's going on here. Again, we are using the singleton pattern, so we have an instance of this, and then don't destroy on load because we want our scene loader to persist throughout the entirety of the game, so we can load more scenes throughout the game. It does have a public function here, load scene. We pass in the scene name. It checks if it is already loading something, and it'll skip it if it still is loading some other scene, and then we just call a coroutine. And in this coroutine, we set the boolean to true. We keep track of an asynchronous operation, scene manager.load scene async with the target scene. And the reason we're using async is because we could try to use just load scene, but if we're not doing it asynchronously and allowing this to load in the background, it might freeze up the screen, and that's going to cause some issues with the VR headset. So just best to do it asynchronously. And you can also use additive load scenes, but just keep in mind, if your other scene has an XR rig in it, that can also cause complications. So just keep an eye out for that. After that, we just wait for the operation to be done. And once it has fully loaded, it'll automatically load into the scene. We will invoke the event on loading scene completed, just to call out to anyone who might be interested when the scene has completed loading, and then say, yeah, it's false. And so now we're loading. So let's see what that looks like. So we are in the Bootstrap scene. If I press play, we can see here that it is loading things up and it boots me into the scene, but the canvas is still there blocking our view. But we do have all our managers that aren't destroying between scenes, and we have everything here. But we don't need a game manager here anymore, and we can make this even better. So in order to gain even more control, we can come into the game scene here. Instead of it just being set here and just hoping the scene loads correctly, let's get some more single entry point work going. So I'm going to go ahead and get rid of this game manager. Instead of having all of these objects in the scene already, I'm going to turn each of these components into a prefab. Now, for simplicity's sake, I am just going to say new folder. Let's call it game scene. And then I am going to make the environment a prefab. I'm going to make the lighting a prefab. And then I'm going to make the XR rig a prefab. And then I can get rid of all of these and then create an empty game object, call it game initiator. And then I'm going to add a new script onto here that I've already made called game initiator. And so this is now going to be responsible for initiating all of the game objects that we need in our scene. And that way we have even more control and know where things might be going wrong as we're loading into the scene. So let's go over the game initiator. Obviously, we have references to all the game objects we need. In the start function, we make it an I enumerator. That way we can wait for each one of these initialization processes to finish, and we start the coroutine initialize XR rig. We just instantiate it. And then we have another coroutine initialize environment, which will get our environment up and running, and then game initiator complete. So down here, it'll come in, it will grab the first object of type fade canvas, which should be the only XR origin rig in the scene. And if we can't find it, well, then we say we couldn't find the fade canvas, which is bad. Now, if we really want to harness the power of the single entry point, each one of these steps, when it returns from this function, we could say, if we had like a loading screen UI, we could put the progress bar at like 33% here, and then 100% here. Obviously, as the systems get bigger and more complex, you would change what that progress looks like. And of course, this is just a brief overview of the power of this system. If you want a deeper dive into this, I did create an entire little ghost bow game on my Patreon that implements this system, so you can see what it looks like in a more filled out game. So let's see what this all looks like in action. So my Bootstrap scene is here with a Bootstrap manager and an XR origin there. And my game scene just has a game initiator with references to all our prefabs. So if I go back to the Bootstrap scene, press play, we can see here it's going to load quickly. Once it loads, it fades in and our players are in the game. And let's make sure it spawned everything correctly. Yeah, we have our XR origin, we have our lighting and environment. So that is a brief introduction to how you can load different scenes in VR while implementing a single entry point pattern in order to maintain very good control over your system and how things are loading in, so you can find out where things might be messing up when you're loading different scenes. So now that it is loading correctly, the last thing that you want to make sure you do is that you have the proper scenes in the proper order in your scene list, which is obviously pretty simple. We don't need this sample scene, and this is already in the right order. Just make sure your Bootstrap scene is in the 0 slot. I appreciate you watching. I hope you found this very useful. A big shout out to my patrons as always, and I will see you all in the next one. Bye-bye!